Welcome everybody to our virtual Make Room conference. We decided to do this online as opposed to canceling and postponing it. We're so happy to have Pastor Paul Little all the way from Macon, Georgia. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good, I thank God for allowing me this opportunity to be able to do something like this. This conference was inspired by Jonathan McReynolds, his album and his book called Make Room. And it was something that I thought would be interesting, especially for young people, knowing how to make room for God, because we've gotten so busy now to where we've forgotten and lost track of who's the one that gave us the job, gave us the relationships and different things like that. So what I wanted to talk with you about is we want to dive in this thing called relationship goals.
Okay.
Pastor Mike Todd from Oklahoma actually just released his book called Relationship Goals. And I wanted to talk to you because you were young, a pastor of Macon, Georgia, and you also are married. And I wanted us to dig deep into this conversation. I met you some years ago at was it the state convention when we first met?
At the state convention, would have been Norman Park. So you're talking about, Johnny, every bit of maybe 10, 11 years ago. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. And I witnessed you doing a session. I think this was before you came to Savannah. You did a session with all the young people where you told all the adults to get out.
Right. Right.
Us in there, and you told us to pull out our phones, and you did something where you told us to text a number, text any question that we had.
Yeah.
And the way that you answered the questions made it relatable to us.
Wow.
Because at that time I was a teenager, and we're all now in our 20s, getting ready in our 30s. But now there's a younger generation coming
Yes.
that might have gotten, the news has shifted, things have shifted, because I believe social media was kind of still fairly new when we were young.
Yeah.
And now that's all these young people have.
Right.
And so what I want to start with you is ask you one of the questions that, the first question that I want to ask is about social media. How do you feel about social media in this day and age? Is it helping or hurting our young people?
Well, first of all, Johnny, let me say thank you for the opportunity. We are just so proud of how you are growing and doing ministry there in the Savannah area. We've literally watched you start before you were officially in ministry preaching, and now to where you are. We always knew you would be a preacher. Everybody who knows you already knew, so nobody was surprised. So, man, we're proud of you, and we appreciate you for having me. I think it's twofold. I think that the question is also the answer. I think it's helping and hurting. Okay. In some regards, I think it's helping because I believe that technology is the wave that's going to take us into the future. I believe that Generation Z, the younger generation that you're referring to, are going to be very significant to the growth of the church, the community, and really the society because of their technological savvy. This is a generation that was born with tablets in their hands. Right. So all of them, they don't know they don't know a world without social media or a world without Facebook or a world without tablets. We do, right? But this generation, I believe, will be very much so helpful in terms of how we as a church, how we as a community and a society move forward into the technological age as it's advancing every year. What I think the downside of it is that I think that many young people are replacing social media with genuine relationships. Wow. And I think that's a danger. I think that they are substituting Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and TikTok now for what they would consider real relationship. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have a relationship with a person technologically, because I believe you can. But I think the danger of it is that using the language of social media, you really think that it's 1,000 people who are friends with you.
Right.
You really think it's 1,000 people who's following you. That's really not the case. And so I think the language sometimes sort of blurs the line between what is virtual and what's reality. I think the other thing is that you can be somebody online that you're not in real life.
Right.
You can create this profile, you can filter it up, you can make yourself look like whatever. And I think that's indicative of what's in people's heart. We don't want to be our authentic self, so we can be whoever we want to be online and then be somebody totally different in reality. In the Bible, that's what a hypocrite was. It was a person who put on one face, who was an actor for a play, but that same person would play another part by putting on another mask. So they had all these multiple masks. That's what social media is allowing our young people to do. I have a Facebook face, I got a Twitter face, I got a Snapchat face, I got a face that I put on when I go to Second Arnold, I got a face I put on when I go to be at Mount Zion, I got a face I put on when I go down to River Street. All of these different faces, I think, is indicative of the fact that if we're not careful, this generation will lose authenticity. I think the other thing that I would say that's a potential danger is that it gives young people unlimited access to evil. So you're thinking about 24/7 access to pornographic material, things that, as it relates to drug culture and trying all of these different kind of experiments sexually. It's just so much that's at their disposal that I think that if we don't teach them how to use social media responsibly, we're gonna lose this generation to technology. I really do believe that.
Wow. And it's funny that you said that, because I just, my family was cracking on me because I had just said that I was not going to get BET Plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
That stuff is on there, the old school shows and all that stuff. I said, I don't want it. Yeah. And so I finally got it this week. And my family was upset that I didn't tell them that I had got it. And so after all that, but I saw a movie on there, and the way that we used to know how BET was. Yeah. All of the explicit stuff wouldn't come on until after like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Right. But now on BET and of course BET Plus, explicit stuff is there 24/7.
24/7. Wow.
So the access to that stuff, and I know that on social media, there are dangers of. That's why they were saying that Snapchat was a dangerous thing. Yeah. Because you can send a picture and within seconds it's gone. Yeah. And so a lot of young people are exposed to that, sending pictures. But the danger is that we also have smartphones that we can screen record.
Right. Exactly right.
So
it's never really gone.
Right. So when it comes to this thing, because I know you brought up online dating or online relationships. Yeah. The thing that I would want us to dig into, how would we categorize online dating? Is that really dating, or is that just the spur of the moment type?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So let me put it in context. So I perform a lot of weddings throughout a year's time. I mean, when I say a lot, I mean, if I could give a number, sometimes 25 to 30 weddings in a year. Wow. And last year, 2019, was probably the year I did the most weddings. And what I'm noticing, Johnny, is that the couples are getting younger and younger and younger. Right. So I just married a couple last year, military young man who just went off to the military. His wife now is 21, he's 20. I mean, you're talking about young. But some of these couples that I'm marrying and doing counseling with even now virtually, they met online. I married an older couple last year, wonderful couple who were members of my church. I didn't even know how they met. They met online and had been dating for years. I don't think online dating is the issue. I think what the issue is that we should use online dating, if we're using the term dating, as a starting point, not the destination. Right. So we may meet online, but that cannot be the means by which we try to get to know each other. At some point, we got to see each other physically. Right. Now, I always caution people about this because, I'm sure you're familiar with the whole catfish concept, right? You don't want to, especially with young ladies, you don't want to say, hey, meet me at, the Savannah Mall tomorrow at 3. We've been talking over Tinder or whatever it is for 3 months. Let's meet up. And then you meet this guy, he a serial killer or something, or you meet this girl and she crazy. So I think it needs to be very, I think we need to be very cautious. I would encourage young people and anybody to be very careful and very tactical with how they carry that out, because I do see some potential danger if we are not keeping our guards up. You know what I mean? If you just say, hey, I met this person, he looks nice on the picture, she looks nice, let's meet up tomorrow down on River Street. And now they're trying to throw you in the river. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, some crazy people out here in the world. So I think that if people are going to meet online, there needs to be some parameters. If they meet up, then you need to meet up with somebody, with a group of people, and say, hey, I got me and 5 more of my friends. Will you be willing to meet up with me? No, I'm good. You crazy. We don't need to meet up then. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have an issue with people meeting online. I just don't think it's a healthy way to develop a relationship ongoing. At some point, we need to meet physically, have some interaction so that I can get a feel of who you are, you can get a feel of who I am, and then we can build from there.
All right. And that was one of the things that I was talking with you about with the what I sent you with how we are looking at things now when it comes to online.
Yeah.
So I don't have to get to know you sitting down at a dinner table.
Right.
Look at your social media and see what you're about.
Yeah.
And there's danger in that, because you talked about having a mask on. There are young boys who have on their Instagram all this money,
right?
Not the money, or they might have guns, or they
right
their Instagram. But then when you meet them in person, they ain't got no money to pay for the day.
No.
So we put on this front for people, and then we get misinterpretations of how people are.
Wow, that's a great way to look at it. I never used that language. I really like that, because that's exactly what it is. It's a misinterpretation built around some false information that you gave me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So with the filter concept, what it says to people, as I said earlier, is that I don't have to be authentic, but it also says I can disguise myself. I can disguise my pain, my hurt, my low self-esteem, and make myself feel validated. And watch this, Johnny. And based on the number of likes I get on my picture, that'll increase my validation. The number of hearts I get, it increases my validation. And I think it's dangerous. I think we have too many young people, too many young adults living for likes. We are desperately in need of validation. We're in desperate need of love and care. And I think that we're replacing those genuine elements that you find in a relationship with the opposite sex. We're replacing that with technological fluff. Like you said, you can misinterpret something, but it's because somebody gave you some bad information and you genuinely, quote unquote, fell in love with this person, only to find out you fell in love with a profile and not a real person. So I think it's dangerous.
Yeah. And I did a workshop with some older saints. They're trying to do this technology thing. And it's crazy how we had a session last year on how to use social media, and for this pandemic to happen.
Wow.
To all of us to have to use social media.
Yeah.
That was an amazing thing that God did. But even when we get back, we're going to have to do it again, because a lot of people still don't know. But I told them, I said, this generation is looking for love. As you talk about. They're looking for acceptance. And where are they finding it? On social media.
On social media, yeah.
I said this one time. I said there was young people do this, some that I've seen. They'll post a picture.
Yeah.
And if they don't get a certain number of likes on that picture, they'll delete it.
Right.
And then a week later, they'll post that same picture.
Yep.
With a different caption.
Yep. It's indicative. It's indicative of the fact that there are some gaps. There's some gaps in our parental structures. I was doing a workshop one day, and I held my iPhone up, and I asked the audience. I said, "Do y'all know what this is?" And everybody said, "It's an iPhone." I said, "Yeah, but keep going." It's a smartphone. I said, yeah. It's a computer. I said, yeah, all of that's true. But let me tell you what it really is for this young generation. This is the most expensive pacifier in the world.
Wow.
Because you think about it, when these little babies are crying, Johnny, what happens? They give them the phone and the little baby can go and work through it. So what happens is that these young people start developing this mindset that says screens, screens, that's how I process life. So everything is on a screen. And so when I'm having these dialogues with young people, I talk about how the scripture says that the eye is the light of the body. And if we're not careful, darkness can enter in. So I periodically tell young people, hey, are you remembering to clean your screen? You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about the physical screen. I'm talking about what you're watching. Are you screening what's on your screen? Wow. Because all of this stuff that you just mentioned about living for likes and wanting love and validation is really because there's something internal that's going on. And I think a large portion of our parents are contributing to that when they give our young people these devices so early and not show them how to have boundaries when they use them. Here is the time that you need to get off of it. Here's how long you need to stay on it. You know what I mean? I really feel like we're giving them these smart devices, but it's causing our kids in some regards to be dumber. And I think we got to be very careful.
Right. And when it comes to this emotional, because we know that love was always in the world.
Yeah.
When God created the world, love was there. Mm-hmm. Even to the point where when he gave his only son,
yes,
that was all in love.
About love, yeah.
But we have taken that word love and we have really, how you could take a piece of paper and you just rip it up.
Yeah.
That's what we've done with the word love.
Yes.
Because if you give me enough presents, if you remember all of our anniversaries,
yeah,
the first time we kissed, the first time we hugged,
mm-hmm.
If you remember all those things, then I love you.
Yeah.
But how can we, or what can we say especially to the young people, because this conference was geared towards the youth and the young adults, but also for the adults as well. They can gain something from it too.
Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between love and lust?
Yeah. Love always gives, lust always takes. Bottom line, when you think about love, the heart of love is not what can I get out of this relationship, it's what can I give. For God so loved the world that he gave, he mm-hmm. gave his only begotten son. And then his only begotten son did what? Gave his life on the cross. Love is giving. Lust is what can I get out of this? She's fine, he's fine. Okay, so if I connect with that individual, what can I get out of it? Is it sexual? Is it emotional validation? Is it you making me feel good about myself because I don't feel good about myself? Lust is always about what I can get for myself. Lust is what I can get for myself. Lust is very much so self-oriented and love is God-oriented. Because here's the difference, Johnny. When I love somebody, I'm willing to love them never because of, I'm loving them despite of, right? So I may love you. I'll tell my wife, I love you because X, Y, Z. But when we go through difficult times, is that love still there? Right? So, but when you start talking about lust, on the other hand, lust is always about pleasure. How does this make me feel? What comforts me about your presence? What comforts me about sex? And what comforts me about, kissing and all of those things? Which is why the scripture teaches us to be very cautious about putting lust to death, because you can't live your life based on what you want all the time. That's like if I'm a child, if I could have my way, a child would eat candy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
And think about it. It may taste great. I mean, and it does. It tastes wonderful. You just love this experience, right? And you use that word, I love this candy. When all actuality, what you love and what you think is so sweet and so pleasing is actually destroying you. Mm. And I think, like you said, when we rip that word love up and bring our own interpretation into it, it clouds our judgment. That's why sex before marriage is so detrimental. And I always try to make sure, and I want our young people who are watching this to understand that it clouds everything, because now Lust is about me taking something from you. It's about me getting something to make me feel good, whether it's sex, whether it's validation, whether it's the words you tell me. But if I love you, and if a person really loves you, they'll be willing to say, you know what, out of love, let's wait and do this God's way. That's a great example of whether or not a person should continue in a relationship with somebody else. If we're teenagers, we're young, hey, I love you too. We should have sex. Well, since we love each other, let's wait it out.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if I want to do that. That's not love, that's lust. You know what I mean? And we have to teach our young people how to distinguish between those two realities, because one is pleasing to God, which is love, and then lust, that is pleasing to the flesh.
And it's so crazy that you brought that up, because when we look at, like we're talking about BET and some of these other venues, Netflix, how they use or how they talk about love and how they talk about relationships, how they have perceived it is how we're actually acting on it now.
Right.
Because if all I have to do is buy you dinner or buy you some roses, that can get me and you in the bed.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to do that. But God didn't intend for that to be that way.
Right.
But my question to you is marriage outdated? Because a lot of young people are feeling like, I don't want to be bogged down on one person. But I've seen this, Pastor. I don't want to be bogged down on one person.
Right.
I also don't want you to be with nobody else.
Right. Right. It's the contradiction of it all. So, it's very interesting because when it comes to marrying young people, like I told you, the couples are getting younger. These ceremonies I'm performing. My church is largely millennial and Generation Z. And from the millennial population, it's overwhelming how many people live together before they get married. And so when I have this discussion with them, now I'm never going to say to them, y'all living in sin, y'all going to hell, listen, they know how I feel about it. And more importantly, they know what the word says about it. So here's what they'll say. Well, Pastor, it's technically not in the Bible. And I said, technically, you're right. I said, but let's look at it from this perspective, John. If you all are living together and you all are attracted to each other, right? What's the next thing that's going to happen? And the couple will say, well, I said, no, don't give me the church answer. Just tell me. Well, more than likely, no, it ain't more than likely. Just tell me. We're going to be having sex. Bingo. That's the issue. The issue is not that y'all are living together. The issue is that if y'all are in the same space and y'all are attracted to each other, you're going to have sex. So people are trying to tell me, Pastor, that ain't necessarily true. This young lady, Johnny from my church, argued me down. Pastor, that ain't true. We can wait. We can hold it. I said, well, let me ask you this question. You're in love, you say, with a heterosexual male, and he doesn't try to touch you, and y'all live together? Look, Johnny, I said, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know a heterosexual man who lives in the house with a woman, and he says, I ain't got to touch her. That's setting yourself up for destruction. And she was like, well, I said, if he's attracted to you, it's going to be hard for him to contain himself, which is why you need to wait until you get married to live together. Another thing I tell young people, and it's interesting because especially with young adults, I say, listen, why give somebody the benefits of marriage without the commitment?
Wow.
So think about it. Think about it like this, Johnny. This same young lady I told, I said, listen, y'all live together and y'all want me to marry y'all a few months from now. I said, let me ask you this question. What if he died tomorrow? And she was like, what do you mean? I said, in terms of his insurance, in terms of the benefits, I said, what would you get? She said, probably nothing. I'm like, exactly. Because spiritually, y'all out of order, and legally, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, even that alone, if somebody loves you, if somebody says they want to go shoot a gun legally, they got to go get a license.
Right.
If somebody wants to go fishing, legally, they got to go and get a license. If they want to drive a vehicle, legally, they got to go and get a license. You mean to tell me if this person says they love me, they want to be with me exclusively, but they don't want to get a license for it? I find that as being very sketchy. And most of the times is young men that have convinced young ladies to do that for a couple reasons. In the words of TLC from the 90s, one, he's a scrub and he ain't got nowhere to live. Right? He's looking for a job. He's trying to get his mixtape out, all it is, right? Two, he wants to be with you for the comfort of being able to come home to you, but still want to be out in the field doing his own thing. So that kind of situation never warrants a commitment, because he says, what's the point of me committing? I can come home, get a free meal. A lot of times I can stay in this space. I can split these bills, or she can pay the bills and I can chill, and then I can still go out and do whatever. It's a trick of the enemy that causes our young women to feel like they have to accept substandard behavior in the name of what they call love. But in all actuality, if I do it God's way, there's so many more blessings and benefits spiritually and physically and financially from doing it God's way. And I tell young couples all the time, you're going to miss the blessing of God's covenant when you decide to do things against God's will. And then here's the problem, Johnny. I've been doing full-time ministry for 20 years, so I've seen every scenario you can think of. It always ends with them coming back and saying, Pastor, we should have waited. Pastor, we didn't listen. So now we got to pick up the pieces. Pastor, I found out she was cheating. Pastor, I found out he did this. Pastor, I didn't check him out like you said. Pastor, we moved in, we rushed it. Oh, Pastor, we got a baby on the way. We ain't ready financially. Pastor, you will be amazed at all of those different scenarios I've seen. But you'll never hear somebody say, Pastor, we did it God's way, but we struggling. I ain't never heard that before. Because when you do it God's way, it's a guarantee that he's going to bless you because you're walking in obedience to his word. So I would encourage our young people who are watching this, our teenagers, as they're thinking about relationships, be very mindful and very cautious about the decisions that you make. And can I address something you said before we move on about the the perception of being with one person? I was speaking at this church about 3 years ago, and they were serving pizza at this lock-in. And Johnny, you've been in some of the sessions I've done, so you know how far out there I can be sometimes. And sometimes I can just say some stuff, right? So I went over to the pizza table, Johnny. All these teenagers over there, right? It's like 100 young people over there. Mm-hmm. And I just started touching the pizza. So the organizer's like, what? I'm just putting my hand all in the pepperoni. They was like, wait, what's going on? So when I got up to speak, right, I said, some of y'all didn't want to eat this pizza after I finished touching it. I said, y'all kind of got offended. I said, but I want to let y'all know. First of all, I'm going to buy y'all some more pizza. I ain't going to be ratchet and just do that, just walk away. I said, but I'm going to tell you why I did that. You're more hesitant about consuming something that's been touched by somebody.
Wow.
You're going to think twice. So you look at old boy, you look at old girl and say, oh man, he's so fine, she's so sexy, ooh wee. But here's the question: how many people you done touch?
Wow.
You wouldn't, Johnny, you wouldn't eat red rice from Savannah with me putting my finger in it like, yeah, man, here you go, Johnny. But then young people will say, but man, Pastor, I love him, I love her. But wait a minute now, time out. You won't eat this pizza that I just touched, but you will literally put your body into the arms of somebody else.
Wow.
You don't know where they've been, and you know what? It clicks. Because who wants something that has been passed around and touched by everybody?
Right.
That ain't even spiritual. That's just, you know what I mean? Like, psychologically, you'll be like, man, if our young people can see all of the other people that their boyfriend or girlfriend has been with, they'll be like, Which is why the Bible addresses this in 1 Corinthians 6 and says, if you have sex with somebody, you become one with that individual. Which is why the Bible says, flee fornication, stay away from that until marriage.
But tell me this though, because I've seen this as well. We want to know what they call the body count. What's your body count?
Right.
If you don't have a certain number, then I don't want to be bothered with you.
Right. So think about, what that says? That says, I want to know that you have experience, so to speak. Right. So think about it like this. What that says is that the enemy has twisted and perverted a certain demographic of young people's mind who think about that to say the more people you've been with, the better it'll be, which is not necessarily the case. Because you can't say based on experience that automatically assumes that it's going to, your sex life is going to be great. here's what I believe the scripture illustrates for us when it comes to marriage. If these two people have waited from the time they were in high school or whatever, they're in college or whatever, they've waited, and they decided on the night of their wedding to be intimate, like God says. Mm-hmm. I'm imagining how much more special that's going to be. Watch this. Versus us doing all of this leading up to us at some point getting married. Where is the mystery? Where is the, you know what I'm saying? Where is the ambiguity? Where is the connection? It's like, this comment, we've been doing this. I think we're missing the element of surprise, and I think it really starts with us teaching, and it can go both ways, but I think it starts with us teaching our young ladies to understand that they are more valuable than being objectified from a sexual standpoint. Because I really do believe, now I believe in mentoring our young men, we do a lot of that, but I'm saying that I think these young ladies can be like, you know what, I'm going to have to make you wait. We're going to have to be married. I think that you change a person's behavior by changing your standards.
That's crazy, because I heard a radio show, it's a comedy radio show, and they were talking about the power that women have.
Yeah.
They really understand the power that they have.
Yeah, man.
Set something, and if we really want you,
to
do everything in our power to do everything you said.
Listen, whatever you say. Listen, it can be the toughest dude from the toughest game. One thing I know for sure, two things I know. One, the right female will make him change his behavior. I've seen that. I'm going to tell you the second thing I've seen. I've seen the toughest guys who prematurely had babies, and they, boy or girl, but specifically when they have a girl, oh man, I can name a guy right now who I'm close with to this day who lives in Savannah, who told me his life changed when his daughter came into this world. You know why? Because now I'm starting to think all of this stuff I've done to women, all the stuff I've done to somebody else's daughter, in my head, I'm saying, Lord, if somebody do this to my daughter, I'm gonna have to kill somebody. You see them? So you start thinking like that as you get to be an adult. You don't think about that when you're a teenager and she fine. You don't think about that when you're in middle school and he fine. You don't think about it. But here's the key, Johnny. We have to teach our young people to start making decisions today that they recognize are going to impact them later. Because whether you make good decisions or bad decisions today, it's going to affect you later on. Hands down. You just can't get away from it. And so I think you're right. I think that whole body count piece and how we put expectations on how many partners this individual has had, later on, that's going to come to haunt you. So it's like you can live with the fun of sin right now and play all those games. But man, I'm telling you from personal experience and from what I know about the Word of God and from the testimonies I know from people that I've pastored, later on, you will pay for those decisions that you made in your younger days.
Wow. And this is good, because this is something we need, especially the young people need to know about these different levels of understanding who they are. And if we get in the mindset of saying, okay, I'm special.
Yeah.
And if it's just like getting a gift.
Right. Exactly right.
You knew, we can look at cell phones. I know it was one time my phone was going, it was completely almost just damaged, just destroyed. And I kept saying, I'm going to wait to get a new phone until I dropped my phone. And I couldn't work it anymore. So I had to go to the store to buy a new phone. Yeah. But I would have been upset if they would have gave me another used phone. Johnny. If they would have told me that,
oh my God,
have the new phone yet, but give you this used phone and see what you can do with that until the new phone comes, I wouldn't want to walk out of the store now.
Wow.
With just a used phone.
Man, that's heavy.
I wanted it to be new. When you take it out of the box, let me take it out.
Come on now.
I feel the newness of that phone.
Come on now.
Be mine.
That's powerful. And isn't it just like the world? Like if you go on the Apple website right now, or the Apple, the app, it'll say, you scroll down and it'll say refurbished products. That's a fancy way of saying somebody has had this before. You know what I mean? I don't want something that somebody have had before. And that's what I'm trying to get our young people to understand. You don't want refurbished relationships. You don't want a refurbished sex life. You want it to be clean. You want it to be to the best of your God-given ability. You want it to be when you have that experience of sex for the first time, you want to know that you did it the right way. You did it God's way. And now you can enjoy the benefits of doing it that way. I think that's a great point. You know the thing about that phone, that same phone too, Johnny, I just thought about it as you said that. I'll protect, and I watch this for our young people. I'm watching them protect their phones better than they protect their lives.
Oh, man.
I mean, they got a screensaver, they got a case, they got insurance. Mama got to have insurance just in case I drop it. But then I treat my body like,
yeah.
But my phone, oh my God. Oh, no, not my phone. I drop, not my phone. But my body? Come on now. I think we have misplaced values, and we have to, like you said, we have to teach our young people that they are indeed special in God's sight, and they need to be special in their own sight. And prayerfully, in God's will, they'll be special in somebody else's sight, which is when they'll be ready to experiment in the beauty of sexuality in the context of marriage. I think that's God's way.
Right. And there's one other question that I wanted to bring to you as we're talking about these relationships and different things like that, because we know that young people, especially now, this generation, is looking for love in all what the older saints would call wrong
places. Yeah.
Places. But what would you say? What can you say to the young people? How do you know when you found that one?
Yeah. I am a believer in love at first sight. I'm a believer in, and I don't think just that everybody has to know the first time they meet somebody. I'm not saying that. It just so happened that prior to me meeting my wife in April of 2005, I didn't believe in love at first sight.
Wow.
When I saw her, I promise. I said to myself, I'm going to marry her. Didn't know her name, didn't know who she was. I was at church preaching a revival at her church. And I asked her pastor, I said, Pastor, I preach a lot. I go in and out of places. I said, I don't believe in doing this. I said, but I saw a young lady who caught my eye, and I want to get your blessing because I believe she's a member of your church. Just so happened that this was the pastor's goddaughter.
Wow.
So I thought he was about to kill me. He was like, man, I really think you're a nice young man, And here's how I knew she was the one for me. There was a certain level of peace that I got in building the relationship with Natalie that I had never had before with any other female. I mean, it's a level of peace that I experienced, and we were off and on for a couple years. But I knew in my heart, deep down in my heart and my spirit, because I had a prayer life and I had a relationship with God, that I was going to marry her one day. I would tell our young people that you will know, first of all, if you have a relationship with God, the Bible says that Jesus says, my sheep know my voice, which means if you have a relationship with Jesus, he'll tell you and he'll show you what's for you and what's not for you, number one. Number two, I think that you'll know when you click with this person on different levels. Number one, we need to click spiritually. Mm-hmm. We need to click emotionally and psychologically. We need to click as it relates to our financial goals. This whole thing, we use this a lot with young people, Johnny. We say, the Bible says, be not unequally yoked. And the Bible does say that, but we'll say that simply means don't date an unbeliever, which in its original context, that is what that means. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest. All Christian people shouldn't be dating all Christian people. There's some Christian person that you can date and say, just because they're a Christian don't mean that we're compatible.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that we have to teach our young people the importance of compatibility. You want to be a doctor and the person that you interested in, they don't want to do anything with their life. I don't know. I think that's going to come around and bite you, because you're going to be having issues about the future and about finances. I've seen young couples, the young lady was super driven and passionate about her future, and the young man is just like passive. And I've seen the other way around. He's super driven and she just want to be on Amazon all day. And he fell in love, but now he's like, Pastor, she lazy. Pastor, we got to make sure there's some compatibility, not just spiritually, but also emotionally, physically, how we see money, whether or not we want to have children, how we're going to raise these children, where we're going to live, what kind of lifestyle do we want to live. All of that is important. And that's why I treat it like this, Johnny. I tell our young people this all the time. Dating is about data. Dating is about data, D-A-T-A. Data is information. Right. You date to get data. That means, hey, what's your name? Where you from? Are you saved? Have you, now I ain't tripping about you having a criminal background, because people can change. Right. But if you killed more than one person and it wasn't self-defense, like what's up? You know what I'm saying? How much dope have you sold? And if we get married, are these people gonna come back to the house because of something you did 5 years ago? You know what I mean? You gotta ask all of these questions. What are your goals for the future? What do you desire to do in life? I think that we have to teach our young people to interview the person that they're going to be interested in. And I think it's very important that you get all that information up front. And then here's the last thing, Johnny. You'll weed the wrong person out because they'll get tired of answering your questions.
That's
what you asking me that for? You know what I mean? What you asking me that for? What you asking me that for? Never mind.
Because I know that when I was in school age, between middle school and high school, it was famous. I don't know if they still do it now, but it was a game called 21 Questions.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
What we did was, because we didn't have phones like that.
Right.
But we had paper. Mm-hmm. So I would write down a question. We would both write down a question.
Yeah.
And then we would switch papers. It's like taking a test.
Yeah. Which is what it should be.
We switched papers and we found out easy stuff, like your favorite color.
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Your favorite car, your favorite artist, different things. If you take something like that, as simple as that, say, hey, you texting somebody, hey, you want to play 21 Questions real quick?
Right.
Make it cool. But the thing is, with that game, a lot of people took it to the sexual stuff.
Right.
You keep it, and in your mindset, say, okay, I'm going to do an interview, like as you say. That's a good way to use that. Yeah. I'm going to make it an interview, so I'm going to ask you serious questions. If they, in turn, ask sexual stuff, you can shift it back.
Absolutely. Back to them. Right.
Because make sure that you know that this is God sent and not just something for that spare of the moment.
Man, listen, and I hope our young people are hearing what you're saying, because that is so, so important. Listen, there comes a point in our maturation, our maturity process, when we come out of our middle school years and our high school years, and we go to college, or we go to military or the workforce or whatever it is people do post high school. Here's one thing I know for sure, Johnny, and then you can testify to this. Your values change from when you were in middle school to high school. Your values change from high school to college. Your values change from that college age or whatever you did after high school to your mid to late 20s. Mm-hmm. What our young people value now about sauce and drip and this, man, listen, I'm 39 years old. My wife is 38. Drip ain't important. You know what I mean? We love each other. We're attracted to each other. We have a blessed life. But all of those young aspirations and those things that were important in the teenage years, they're not as important when you get older. You start thinking about building a life with somebody. You start thinking about building wealth. You start thinking about starting a family and having this dream life that you believe that God will bless you with if you do things His way. And I want our young people to really think about that. Don't be so narrow-minded that you look at, oh, I'm a teenager. Yeah, but you're not going to be a teenager all your life. You're not going to be in middle school all your life. You're not going to be in college all your life. At some point, and guess what? And for some people, that may not mean marriage. Let's be real. Right. That may not mean marriage. But I do believe that the values change. And when the values change, it's an indication that you're outgrowing something, you know what I mean, that used to be valuable to you.
And then,
Neither one of us on this call can wear clothes from when we were in the 3rd grade.
right.
Ain't no way, right? So the sign of our health, Johnny, is how much we've outgrown things. And I think our young people have to have that kind of mindset. We got to teach them that it's okay to outgrow certain people. It's okay to outgrow certain habits, certain relationships. I'm developing, you know what I mean? And so I think it's important.
One of the things that I looked at a couple of days ago, because I'm very close to that 30 mark.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to look at life in a different light.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I saw was that I used to have friends that I was real close with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, we're going to be doing this thing for the rest of our lives.
Right, right.
And that was elementary age. It's like, oh, we're going to be good. We're going to be tight.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't have social media then.
Right.
So as we got older, we lost track.
Mm-hmm.
And I got mad. So the other day I was thinking, man, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah.
But then I had to stop and say, well, I think that season is up.
Absolutely.
If they happen to show up,
mm-hmm.
then great.
Yeah.
But it's not for me to force something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because now that we have social media, I shouldn't be going typing in their name to
mm-hmm.
see where they are.
Right.
I should let God, do that, because God may have he's keeping them away from me for a reason.
Yeah. And if they were meant to be in your life long term, they will still be there.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think you bring up another great point, which again, I'm hoping our young people are really hearing this, because man, we can be so tight with this person, this girl, or this guy, or this clique, my homies, my homegirls right now, my squad, my circle, whatever term we're using now. But then as I'm getting older and my values start changing, it's certain conversations that seem to be very, very petty. Like, I'm like, like, okay, here we are. It's like a high school student, right? If you're a high school student watching this, and we're in high school, we sit at the table, and somebody come up and say, man, did y'all see SpongeBob the other day? What? What? Did y'all see Paw Patrol last Saturday? What? All the high school students are going to start bullying you like, man, go, that's elementary school. But we forget that doesn't apply just to things like that. It applies to all of life. Your conversation ought to change. Your values ought to change. Your habits, the things you look forward to. I am 39. I'll be 40 this year, which I'm so excited about it because it's a new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So my wife and I, our conversations about where we are at 39 and 38 is drastically different now.
Wow.
It is drastically different than when we were starting out at 27, when we were in Savannah, figuring this whole thing out. It has drastically changed in those 12 years. And I think it's important that we teach our young people to recognize it's okay to outgrow certain people, certain seasons, certain habits, and to mature and to develop into who you know that God wants you to be.
Pastor, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you have a high school sweetheart?
A high school, yeah.
One of the things that I also was thinking about, there are a lot of people who tell their love story.
Yeah.
And they say, well, I married my high school sweetheart. And they're still married to this day.
Yeah.
The thing that troubles me is that we look at that and think I wish I had that.
Yeah.
I wish I was still with my high school sweetheart, because we had a strong thing in high school.
Yeah.
If we were married now, we would be good. But as you're talking about us maturing and having a different value, would it be the same as it was in high school?
That's something to think about. See, my high school sweetheart was crazy. So look, if I was married to my high school, I would still be by myself, because she'd probably be in jail right now. She was crazy. So, but you bring up a great point, because you can start thinking like that. I wonder how this would be. It is possible. I know people who've been married 40, 50 years and they met in high school. Several people. I have at least 6 couples in my church who started dating, like a couple in middle school, some in high school, and they're like in their 70s now. It is absolutely crazy to me. And every year we do this big celebration of marriage, and because I want my young people to see that it's beautiful, that you can be with a person for a long time, still love them, still like them, you know, not trying to choke them. You know, we can get along this long. But I do think what you said is so important, because we have to teach our young people to value those relationships now, while they're in high school, while they're in middle school. Learn how to communicate, learn how to cultivate relationships. And you may not marry that person, or you might marry that person that's your childhood or your high school sweetheart. The real key of it all is, what are you bringing to the table in terms of your character, your goals, your vision, right? So if and when God leads you down that road of marriage, then you can contribute something to the household. I think that is so important, that we teach our young people that as early as possible.
Wow. One of the last things that I wanted to bring to the table for this session is in the book, Jonathan McReynolds' book, his chapter 4, he talks about making room in private.
Yeah.
And I think that falls into play with relationships.
Yes. Because
in public, we look like we would, you know, on social media, I only post the pictures that when we're happy.
Right.
I only post the best dating, the best dates that we've been on.
Yeah.
You know, with
not the arguments. And
I'm not going to post arguments unless you really piss me off.
Right. Now I got to get you.
And the dangerous thing is also when the breakup happens.
Yeah.
All the dirty laundry is thrown.
I've seen it.
But how can we make room for God in private? Understand, how do we level this thing and say, of course, we shouldn't put everything, because we all know that you're married, you and your wife are happily married, but you all don't post your whole relationship.
Right.
And I'm sure even at church, the church doesn't see your full relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
How do you balance that on what to show, what not to show,
man,
public, and what not to say?
That is a great question. Here's something I use at our church. I was preaching this message last September. I was doing a relationship series. I was talking about singleness, marriage. We were doing a piece with young people that month. And I said this: when it comes to social media, everyone is not who they post to be. And all of our young people got a kick out of it, like, Pastor, that's hot. I'm like, but think about it. Like you said, I'm not going to post all of my pain, and not suggesting I should, or all of my dirt, and not suggesting I should. But the way we do this from a public standpoint, it really indicates where we are privately. And this is why I think it's the key. And I love your question, because I have to make room for God in private first, because what I do in private shows up in public. So the reason the person don't have an issue with putting their ex, on blast when they break up is because privately they got some messy stuff going on.
Right.
The Bible talks about in the book of James, what causes fights among us? It is because we have some inner stuff, the Bible says, going on, some inner conflict. And when a person has inner conflict, they'll hurt you at any given moment. We've heard people say that hurt people hurt people.
Right.
And so when I'm, misery loves company, all of that is true, because when I don't have that time with God and I don't have that strong relationship, if I'm struggling in my relationship with God, how can I give something to you?
Wow.
Which is why the Bible says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. How can I do that if I don't love God first? So I think that your question is great, because it helps us to encourage our young people to see people in light of their relationship with God. If they love God, they'll know how to treat me. If they love God, they ain't gonna cheat on me. If they love God, they ain't gonna force me to have sex before marriage. If they love God, they're gonna treat me right. They're gonna love me right. We can have a great relationship as young people, and then do things God's way, if it is really love. And I think that what you're doing with this Make Room Conference and other things I've seen you do since being in ministry, and even before you officially being in ministry, is what really speaks to the relevant needs that our young culture is dealing with. Because we love young people. We want to see everybody win. We want to see everybody eat. We want to see everybody thrive and do well. But in order to do that, it starts with simply doing things God's way.
Wow. Man, is there anything else you want to add?
I would say, yeah, I would say again, thank you to you and for your leadership and all that you're doing in Savannah. You know, Savannah is my home away from home, and I love the city. I would say to all the young people who are watching this to take advantage of these resources, take advantage of your opportunity to ask questions and to engage with your leadership, because these are defining moments. The things that you learn now as a teenager is gonna set the path for your life later on. And so we love you. We're encouraged by this young generation. I believe y'all have a lot to offer the world, and we want to see you win. And so we thank God for you.
Again, we thank you all for joining us in our Make Room Conference, our virtual Make Room Conference this year. We are ending it here. We are excited. We were supposed to do this in person. And as a matter of fact, this moment right here, we would be in session right now.
Yeah.
But we thank God for resources such as this to be able to still bring out the information that you need. Now you have a sneak peek of what is going to happen in person, because 2021, get yourselves ready, because we're going to be in person. If it's the Lord's will, we're going to be in person doing this thing face to face. But we thank you, Pastor Little. I love you so much, man.
You as well, brother. Proud of you, man.
Thank you for all the encouragement, all the things that you've done, all the opportunities, because you've given me a lot of opportunities as well. Thank you for being you and being the person that you are, that people can look up to. Young men can look up to you. Young ladies can even say that, hey, I got something from Pastor Little. Wow. And we thank God for the things that you're doing up there in Macon. We miss you here in Savannah, but we know
I miss y'all too, man.
for you in Macon, and you're doing an awesome job.
Bless you, man.
Give your wife my regards. I know that she would have been here with us on tonight.
Yeah. Listen, Mother's Day weekend, she's in Americas, Georgia with Mama. And so, look, she said, well, you know, you think I need to try to come back? Well, I said, no. I said, you don't, Mama, trying to attack me. Yeah. So, yeah, she really wanted to, but she sends her regards as well. But, Johnny, we're proud of you, man. We love you. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thanks, sir. Thank y'all so much, and we hope to see you all soon. Be blessed.
Y'all be blessed.